Alright guys, welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Anthony, I'm an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. The purpose of the group is to provide a constant message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and the teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Hey, Chris. Hey, Ryan, welcome. Hey, Dan. Hey, Alan.
I'm Trish Alcoholic.
Hey, Trish. Hey, welcome. Anybody else? Alright. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with the working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Thanks for your service. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? No?
I do.
Oh, here you go. Hi. Hey.
My name's Adrienne, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Adrienne.
So, we have 2 announcements. We don't have many. One would be the Pensacola, the Pennsylvania Convention for Young People's and Alcoholics Anonymous is coming up very fast in Bethlehem. It'll be an amazing event. You can get involved, you can go experience the energy and aliveness with this group of people coming together to talk about, their experience with hope and Alcoholics Anonymous. It's August 25th to the 27th. And secondly, June 23rd, 24th, and 25th is the 6th Annual Liberty Bell Roundup. Ron Kay has flyers and everything on both events. If he doesn't, we'll be ready here. Thanks.
Alright, thank you. Anybody else? We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or Ron before or after the meeting. They are available at free of charge. I would like to ask Zach to come up and read the preamble. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Zach. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've asked Lily to come up and read the 12 steps.
Hi, I'm Luli. I'm an alcoholic. Guess I have to stand on tippy toes. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. In step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Next, in 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. In step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. In 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. In 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. In step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory when we were wrong and promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And finally, in step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thank you.
All right, there's a seventh tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to have Zach and Luli pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses: coffee, cream, donuts, rent, big books, and CDs. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. If you could take a moment now to please silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. So right now I'd like to welcome our speaker. This is a great friend of the Conscious Contact Group, Adrienne S. of Voorhees, New Jersey, the Unshakable Foundation Group.
We should check the lighting too. We all right? I like it a little lower lighting, candlelight. Hi, my name's Adrienne. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Adrienne. What? It's really good to be here. I am, honored to be considered a really good friend of the Conscious Contact Group. This is a fabulous place, and my heart is here, even when I'm not here. So it's pretty awesome to finally be asked to speak here. Everything is perfectly timed in God's world, so I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be all the time. I don't doubt that today. So I do like to break stones, particularly Ron's. So I might do that a little bit. It's all out of love. It all comes from a good place. So again, thank you for having me. It's really an honor and a privilege to do anything for Alcoholics Anonymous. I feel like I have this huge thing. Is that still good? Okay, good. All right. So my home group is the Unshakable Foundation in Voorhees. We meet on Tuesday nights at 7:30. It's an amazing group. Big book. Somebody comes in each week and reads a section out of the big book and shares their experience with it, what it means to them, how they apply it, and all that good stuff. It's really interesting and fun. If you're ever in the area, please come visit us. I hope you'll be welcomed with love and you'll find it to be a great place just like this. I thank you for the warm welcome coming in here. My sobriety date is July 24th, 2013. And I don't know, my first AA meeting, I was greeted with love, and it made me feel a sense of ease and comfort coming into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and every time I come here, I feel ease and comfort too. So I hope all of you, continue to be that extension of God's love and welcome people with open arms. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, which I love to talk about. My ego has not been crushed. It has been shrunk. So, I don't know, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today. Thank you, Luli. It's probably because I had Starbucks this afternoon, and now I'm having another coffee, which is delicious. I have a drinking problem. Okay, so I came into Alcoholics Anonymous in 2013, July, and I came because I had no other options. I was scared. I was filled with fear. I am one of these people that drank 24/7. We were just talking about, to Brian, where's Brian? Brian, hi. Brian's just a great guy I just met, and he's in a really good spot. You know, he came in here on his own free will. I came in on my own free will. There's a lot of people that come into Alcoholics Anonymous because they're forced to come into Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it's by a family member, a husband, a loved one, the courts, right? And they come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous to please someone else. And I came in here for me as well. And I think that's a really good time to come into Alcoholics Anonymous, when you're ready for the change. So many people come in, you know, kicking and screaming, and they don't want it, and they're just coming in here because they have to. And it's a difficult journey in Alcoholics Anonymous when it happens that way. From my very brief experience in Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm only here I'll have 4 years in July. So what happened? You know, I was a party girl most of my life, from the age of 17 to the age of 43. There wasn't a day that went by without me having a substance in my body. Didn't start with alcohol, but alcohol was always there in the background, and I was always able to walk away from other substances, but it started out with other things, and I had a really good time. I was the party girl in high school. I was the party girl, you know, in my 20s, and it just seemed like, you know, I was invincible, and these things that I was doing, the drugs and the alcohol, were just, you know, normal. Everybody that I hung with was partying like I was partying, and I know now that I suffer from a progressive illness, and if you told me that back then, I would tell you that you're crazy. Right? What are you talking about? I'm just having a good time, right? I'm not hurting anyone. We all say that, right? I'm not hurting anyone. And in fact, that's not the truth. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous because I've hurt so many people, because I've hurt myself, and I carried a lot of guilt, shame, and remorse for my behaviors over the years. And I can tell you that through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, all of that has been removed. All of that has been taken from me, and now I can stand here today a free woman. I don't walk around in the shackles of shame and remorse and guilt and fear of who I'm going to see tomorrow, or living in horror of my past. I can be here today, and I can be in the present moment, and I can share with you, good people, my experience with this program, which has been a beautiful journey. So like I said, I've been partying since I was 17 years old. At the age of 43, I come in here, and I'm drinking to around the clock 24/7. I wear scrubs to work. I work in the medical field. So I've got all my pockets filled with airplane bottles, and I'm drinking as soon as I wake up, right? Breathing and drinking go hand in hand, right? Being conscious and drinking go hand in hand. If I was awake, I was drinking. And it went on that way for a pretty long time, and until the point where one day I was just couldn't handle it anymore. I can remember standing over the kitchen sink. It was a Thursday night. It was a Thursday night, and I'm standing over the kitchen sink in the morning, and my husband had left for work, and I reach under the bed before I get to the kitchen sink. I reach under the bed, and I realize that I can't find anything to drink, and I got to get downstairs. I'm so sick. I'm so sick without the drink. I'm so sick with the drink, but I got to put the drink in me to function. So I make it downstairs, and I'm standing over my kitchen sink, and I'm sweating, right? I'm sweating. I got fluids coming out of my eyes, my nose. I just need to get this alcohol in me, and it's a horrific place to be. I'm sure many of you have been there before. And I'm over the sink, and I just got to get it in me. And I go to put the vodka in me, and my body's just rejecting it. My body is no longer allowing me to put this substance in my body, and I got to get it in me. I work in the medical field, so I would write myself prescriptions for Zofran. So that's an anti-vomiting pill. And I would eat handfuls of Zofran, so I don't really think I'm a drug addict, or else I would have been writing for Percocet. Clearly, straight up alcohol, right? Straight up alcohol took me out, and took me out hard. So I popped these Zofran so that I could just, get this alcohol in me, and I can get the drink down. And there's like this moment, and I used to say, like, God struck me to a moment of clarity to say I need to stop drinking. And I don't really think that's the truth. I think I was so sick. And I just said to myself, I need to stop drinking. Like, oh my God, girl, you gotta stop drinking. I'm 43 years old, and suddenly I realized I gotta stop drinking. My sister's been telling me since I'm 18 that I do way too much of everything. My mother, well, not my mother, my dad and my stepmother have been telling me that I drink entirely too much, that I have a drinking problem. You know, my job, my husbands, both of them, my first husband and my current husband, always told me I had a drinking problem. And quite frankly, anybody that told me that I had a drinking problem or got in the way of me drinking, they just had to go, right? I mean, I'm self-sufficient modern woman. I don't need anybody, right? You know, if you came in between me and my drinking, I just moved on. You went away and I found something better, right? And so people and situations were disposable for me. And I hurt a lot of people from that behavior. So I have this moment where I realize I have to stop drinking. Maybe I conceded deep down in my innermost self, right? Deep down, conceded within that I need to stop drinking. I don't think I said I'm an alcoholic, but I said I need to stop drinking. And I knew at this point, clearly, I'm not going to be able to stop on my own, right? I mean, I'm popping Zofran like it's chiclets or whatever to get the vodka in me so that I can function, so that I could get to the shop right where they don't tie off the end caps, where I can get 4 packs of wine of little bottles so that I could get to the office to drink them until lunchtime, so I could get to the liquor store to replenish, to get home to drink a half a handle of vodka, to pass out, to just do it over and over and over again. And I work in gastroenterology, which is interesting because that's liver diseases. So I knew what was happening to me. I knew my liver was shutting down. I was covered in bruises. I mean, I'm like picking at my skin. I'm like ripping, it was a horrific way to live. And you know, I would go to the doctors and be like, oh, what do you think about this person's liver function tests? And they'd be like, oh, they need to see a liver transplant doctor. And I would say, it's somebody else, and really it was me, right? Like they didn't know or something. I would go to work and I'd be reeking of alcohol, and the girls, my coworkers would say, Adrienne, man, you smell. And I'd be like, yeah, rough night, man. Meanwhile, the party never ended, right? I mean, I'm drinking 24/7 at this point. If I'm not sleeping, I'm drinking. And, something happened where I was done drinking. I was done drinking that day. Clearly, I was done. I go to work, somehow function halfway through the day. The big mess happens. It was like me in the bathroom and a crying jag, and I end up leaving work early, and I go home that night and I tell my husband that I need to go to rehab. I have no idea what that means or what that looks like. All I know is that for the weeks prior, I had been looking at the employee handbook. The employee handbook told me that if I went to them first, that they had to save my job, or they could not fire me, that my job would be preserved if I went to them first. So I said I need to go to rehab, and the conversation didn't go very well with my husband. Again, a lot of fear. What do we know? What does rehab mean? Like, how long do you go for? Where do you go? Where is rehab? Is that like some magical place? Like, how do you find a rehab? Am I allowed to have my phone? What about my makeup? Like I had like shoes. I need boots. Like, what does this mean going to rehab? And the conversation didn't go too well, and I'm a blackout drinker. Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't even remember, but I know that night did not go well. So I did what every 43-year-old alcoholic woman does, is they call their daddy. And the interesting thing about my daddy is that from the age of 3, my parents got separated, divorced, whatever, at the age of 3, and we were moved, me, my brother, my sister were moved from New Jersey to Florida. And all I knew about my father was that he, anytime Dad was involved, the family was crying. There was arguments, there was turmoil, there was unrest in the house when Daddy was involved. And so from the age of 3, I started developing this idea about my dad that Dad's bad, right? Dad calls, mom cries, brother's freaking out, sister's trying to fix everything. This is not a good thing. Dad calls, same thing, repeat, right? So now in my mind, Dad's got. So I kind of pushed my dad away my entire life, but he was always there when I needed something, right? I would only call him when I needed something. When I needed something, usually money, I would call Dad and he would be there. And so here I am at the age 43 who's pushed this man away my entire life. From the age of 3 on, pushed this man out of my life, called him yet again, and he showed up. He shows up at my house. I think when I called him and said, hey Dad, it's Adrienne, I think I need to go to rehab, he probably said 3 Hail Marys and the Our Father and, all that good stuff. He was probably really excited about it. I do think, I think he said, are you serious? And I said, yes, and you need to come here now, and he showed up. My dad shows up at my house. It's my husband, myself, my stepmother, and my father, and we're having this discussion in my house, and it's not going well. I just need to go to rehab. If we talk about this any longer, it ain't happening. We gotta go now. And so I took my dad into the kitchen and I said to my father, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die. I work in gastroenterology. I know what's happening to my body, and I know the state of my drinking, and there's no way I can stop. The thought of waking up and taking a breath, inhale spirit. The thought of waking up and not having a drink in me was so far-fetched, I couldn't even, it doesn't make sense. Those words don't go together for me. It was impossible to conceive the idea of Adrienne not drinking for a day. Impossible. And so I told my dad that, and that my liver was shutting down and that I was going to die. I told him, Dad, I think I'm going to die if I don't go get some help, because there's no way I'm going to be able to stop on my own. So my dad told me to go upstairs and pack a bag. He had some experience with putting people in rehab or taking people to rehab. I have a brother that had been twice before. So my dad made a couple phone calls. He said, go pack a bag. I went and I packed a bag, and the next morning I wake up and I'm sick as a dog, and I just need a drink, and I open my eye and I realize I'm in this pink mauve bedroom, and I'm like, oh, man, I overreacted. I realize I'm at my father's house, and I'm like, oh my God, that really happened last night. I can't believe I just need a drink, I just need a drink. And here comes my big sister. She was the one always trying to keep the family safe and everything. And my sister comes upstairs and she opens the door and she's like, hi, Adrienne, we're going to rehab. And because I promised I wouldn't use foul language here, I told her to get out. And that, I don't know, she had to shower me. I was so sick. I needed alcohol to function. I couldn't get in the shower. I could not brush my teeth without drinking. And so off to rehab I went. My dad drove me down to a rehab. I was there for 32 days. My husband met me down there for the intake process. And, after a couple days of detoxing, I kind of liked the place. Here I am. I'm in this safe environment. I have my own room. The food's not too bad. We have yoga and Pilates, and I can get a massage a couple days a week. This is pretty sweet. I don't have to face my father while I'm in this place. I don't have to think about these coworkers that would find me passed out on the bathroom floor cooling my face for 3 hours. I didn't have to face my manager who's knocking on my car door at lunchtime going, yo, man, you coming back or what? There's so much guilt, shame, and remorse that we have, right? And that guilt, shame, and that remorse is what takes me back to my solution. My solution was drinking, right? So I'm in this place and it's comfortable. I'm safe in this rehab bubble. I'm safe in this environment, and And I didn't want to leave, and after 32 days, they said, oops, time to go. And, you know, I was a hot mess going in. I cried and cried and cried. I was so scared. And then I get comfortable for these 32 days, and it's time to go. And the day I had to leave, I was back to that mess, that crying mess, because now I got to go face these people. I got to go see my dad, who I only called in the last 40 years when I needed something. I have to go, you know, go back to this job, right, where I'm so embarrassed of my behaviors and the lies that I told so many people over the years. You know, how do you do that? You know, how do you get out of rehab in this safe environment? This is for you, Brian, right? How do you get out of this safe environment where you're separated from alcohol? I needed to be separated from alcohol. Rehab was very important for me. There was no way I was going to not drink if I didn't get separated from alcohol. And 32 days, now it's time to go. And how do you go back and be a wife to your husband, right? I mean, weird topic, sober sex, never had it in my life, you know what I mean? Like, how do you go back and you know, I have to go be a wife to a man I married, and he only knew me as a drunk. You know, I don't know how to function without alcohol in my system, like out in the real world. And so I was really scared, very, very scared. And my husband picks me up. It was a Friday night. He takes me to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous outside of rehab. Alcoholics Anonymous did come into the rehab. When I was in the rehab, we got this blue book. You know, had said Alcoholics Anonymous on the front of it. I used it as an autograph book, right? All the girls would write, oh, don't let anyone take your joy away, and keep smiling, and call me, right? Like my first big book is filled with autographs, right, and phone numbers. Be interesting to call those people today and see who answers, right? I'd answer, because I've been saved by this beautiful sacred program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So call me. And so I had, some idea of this program, right? I don't think anything went through my thick skull. You know, I was still twisted while I was in there. I was still completely shot out while I'm in there, and they're trying to talk to me about the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 shuffle, right? That's all you go over in the rehab. And so I walk into my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous on a Friday night. It happened to be in a hospital where in one room there was Al-Anon, and in the other room was Alcoholics Anonymous. My husband went to Al-Anon, and I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I walked in there, and I knew some facts that I had to take care of when I left rehab. One was that I needed to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, that I needed to get a sponsor, that I needed to do the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that I needed to get a home group. I didn't really think I needed all that. And so I was certainly going to go to my first meeting because my husband had it planned where we were going. And I go to that meeting and I raise my hand and I say, hi, my name's Adrienne, and I just got out of rehab today. And this woman came from across the room before the meeting even started, when they were introducing people, just like y'all raised your hand here if you were visiting. When I raised my hand and said that I was just out of rehab on day 1, she came from across the room and she gave me this great big hug and she said, Adrienne, we're so glad you're here. You're in the right place. It's going to be okay. And I got that sense of ease and comfort. Right? This woman took that fear away from me. And what I can see now, looking back, because that's, everything's looking back, right? Hindsight's 20/20. I know now, or I believe now, that, that woman woke something up in me. Deep down inside every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. And when she came over to me and embraced me like I was her long-lost niece and told me it was going to be okay and that I was in the right place, something happened to me that night. And it made me want to come back to Alcoholics Anonymous the next day. Like, I could get 2 days, right? And so that's a beautiful thing about, I love the way that you greet people when you come in. I think it's really, really important when you're in anywhere you are in Alcoholics Anonymous that you greet people and you show them love and try to make friends with them and maybe let the God in you talk to the God in them and maybe wake something up in them. This woman, I believe, woke up a little bit of the God inside of me. You know, I don't even know that he was sleeping. I don't think God ever sleeps inside of me. You know, I think I just knocked him out. Right? Bam! He's flat out. Right? And so God woke up inside of me and I started to feel something. I started to feel a little something like I could do this again, right? I can go back to Alcoholics Anonymous and thus started my journey in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I go to these meetings, and I'm trying to go to this 90 at 90, and I'm trying to do this deal. And it's interesting because my friend Chris just pulled out a journal the other day. I used to say, right, so the longer you're here, your truth changes, right? Something that I believed really, really as being my truth, 30 days being sober, is completely far removed from my truth today, right? So up until last week, I believed that I was in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous for 30 days before anybody shared the message with me. That's what I believed until last week, because my friend Chrissy has a journal that I carried with me, and in that journal it was dated September 7th, it was dated. And the things that were written in the journal entry for September 7th were things my sponsor told me. So clearly, you know, somebody came to me very quickly with a message of the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I got out of rehab August 26th, 23rd, 26th, something like that. And by God, that was like a week. 2 weeks, right? That's pretty awesome. So I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm thinking I'm here for 30 days. I'm only here 2 weeks. And I'm not digging these meetings. I'm not digging how y'all are in here and doing this every day. I don't get it. I don't like it. It's just not happening for me. And I go to a meeting one day, and the interesting thing about this one meeting that I went to that day is that my sponsor was going through whatever she was going through, and her sponsor said, you need to go to a new meeting and find yourself a newcomer. And she just happened to come across this meeting, and I just happened to come across this meeting, and she's in this meeting, and after they're done, she holds up her big book and she says, hi, my name's Jen, and I'm really passionate about the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as they're outlined in this book, and if there's anybody here that's interested in a new way of living, it would be my honor and privilege to show them. Well, I thought I got that book. You know, and she looks happy, and she's offering it to me. And I was one of those girls that if you gave me something my entire life, if you said, here, sniff this, I wanted to sniff all of it. If you told me to put this on your tongue, I wanted 5 of them. If you told me to swallow it, I want the whole bottle. If you told me to drink it, where's the gallon? Like, I would try anything without questions, right? Now I'm 2 weeks in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am not liking it. I can't believe that was only 2 weeks. It seemed like forever that I was here without a solution. And I wasn't having it, you know, like those 2 weeks, they seemed like a month. Clearly, because that's what I thought, and because sober sucks, you know, recovered is amazing. Sobriety, not so good if you don't have a solution, right? Just not drinking and going to meetings wasn't working for a person like me, you know, and this woman's got this blue book that I got a lot of autographs in, and she says there's something in there that's going to change my life, and I'm willing to try it. So she gave me her phone number. I go and I leave the meeting, and I get in the parking lot, and I call her up, and I say, hi, it's Adrienne, I'm at the meeting tonight. She says, yes, I'm still in the building, can you chill out? So she says, I'll call you later. She calls me later that night, and that was a Thursday as well. And she tells me to come over her house and sit down with her. And I met her on some strange hour, like 8 a.m. on a Saturday. Who does that? And we met, and we had this conversation, and one of the things that happened, and I now know it was the language of the heart. You know, she spoke words that spoke to my truth. She spoke, and I connected with her. We were talking about her drinking and her life as it was before, and clearly it wasn't that way anymore. And she used to tell me that she used to walk around and she used to look in the mirrors and she would check to see how yellow her eyes were, to see if she could continue to drink that day. I'm in gastroenterology. I am like clicking with this chick on every level, right? So, you know, like I did that. I did it with my liver function tests. Can I drink again today, doc? You know, without saying it. She's looking at the yellow in her eyes, and now I'm having this connection with this woman. And so for the first time, something is happening. For the second time, something is happening, right? It first happened with that lady on my very first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that made me want to come back. Now it's happening 2 weeks later with this mystery woman who's carrying the same blue book I got. And she's talking about hope and a new way of living. And she clearly lived the way that I live because she shared those experiences with me. Classic 12th step right out of the big book, right? Talk the language of the heart. Talk about your experiences. Get them hook, line, and sinker, baby. Pull them in, right? And she did that for me. She spoke the language of the heart. She spoke my language at the time, and I was digging what she was saying. And she invited me back the next week. And the next week I went back and we went through the first 3 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, exactly as they're outlined in the book. We read from the book line by line, page by page, sentence word by word. We discussed it. If there was something we didn't understand, they explained it. It was a group of women, some that were just like me, and some that had been recovered, that had had a spiritual awakening through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was a really weird experience. It was a really weird experience because, you know, at the end, they want us to hold hands and say a prayer. Like, I'm not digging that. One of the things that did happen, though, is that they explained to me that I suffer from a progressive illness, and can you see the progression in your life, Adrienne? And I said, well, yeah, I can see it. I went from party girl at 17 to 29. I'm going to marry this poor sucker and get sober, like not party as much if I get married. And then my dad will like me more if I marry this guy. And then I can't not drink, and I'm hiding things. And now I'm, you know, so it went from being fun to being something that I'm doing because I kind of need to do it, and I'm hiding it. And then at the end, it's a necessity. It's like air, it's like oxygen. I need it to function, right? So my progression went from being really fun to taking me out and almost killing me. So I saw the progression. They told me that I suffer from the phenomenon of craving. Like, what the heck is that? Right? They told me that once I put a substance in my body, it's outlined in the doctor's opinion. It's a chapter in our beautiful book about what I suffer from. And can I relate that once I take the drink takes me. That once I take the drink, it demands more. That something happens different to me than happens to my husband. You know, my husband can have a few beers and be done. My husband cannot drink for a long period of time. He doesn't suffer from this phenomenon of craving, right? When he's done having a couple beers, he's done having a couple beers. When I drink, full on party, let's go get something else. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what I do. And so I could relate to that phenomenon of craving. It says that it explains some things which I could not otherwise explain. You know, for instance, you know, my husband leaves on a Saturday morning. He wakes up at 7:30, and obviously the night before did not go quite well. And I'm very sick in the morning, and he wakes me up and he's begging me not to drink. My husband is so amazing. He's not just telling me not to drink. He's giving me an out. Just wait till 3 o'clock when I get home, baby. Please just wait. You know, like, you got to stop. This is, you're killing our marriage. I can't go on like this. You're destroying me. And I'm like, okay, baby, I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to drink. I promise I'm not going to drink today. I'm so sorry. And the problem is that he woke me up at 7:30. Wake, drink, wake, drink. right? And so I'm not drinking, and it's 7 o'clock, 7:30, and I'm in my beautiful house in Riverton, in my beautiful neighborhood, with no financial worries. I got a great dog, beautiful stepchildren that don't bother me, and, a job that's just fine, and I can't be in this beautiful life that I've been given comfortably, right? So it's 7:30, it's 7:45, it's 8 o'clock, and I'm getting irritable, I'm so restless. I'm gonna vacuum. Let me just run the vacuum. I run the vacuum, it's stinking loud, man. I just need to take a drink. If I take one drink just to get the edge off, I'll be able to finish cleaning the house. And I go in, and I'm just gonna be one drink to take the edge off, and I take that drink, and 3 o'clock my husband comes home, and I'm incoherent on the sofa. And he's like, Adrienne, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know. I wasn't sitting on the sofa going, yeah, man, that phenomenon of cravings, kick it in. I can feel it coming, right? It's like, I didn't know this stuff. And so these ladies are explaining some things that I could not otherwise explain, right? This doctor's opinion. I'm in the medical field. Another thing I'm relating to because I'm in medicine, right? It's coming from a doctor. So I'm getting it. I suffer from that phenomenon of craving. There is no doubt, right? I can't have one. And that coupled with this mental obsession, I don't have a chance. Right? I am digging a hole deeper and deeper. There is no way out with this mind that takes me back to the drink regardless of anything, right? I promise my husband I'm not going to drink, and I drink, right? My willpower, the mental obsession trumps my willpower every single day, just like that, right? It's going to be different, and I can't not drink. And then it sets off this vicious cycle because the phenomenon of craving kicks in, and I'm out of control. And so I got that, and they told me that, do you relate? Yes, I relate. Check. Is your life unmanageable? Well, I certainly can't manage drinking, right? And I think I'm doing okay managing the husband. Number one, he just got rid of him, so I managed him quite well. And, husband two, I'll just torture him for a little bit more, managing that well. DUIs, I'm managing that well too. I'm not capable to see that my life is unmanageable, but I know that I can't manage drinking. And so here I am, step one, and that they tell me that I need to, that I need something greater than myself. And I tell you what, I believe that something happened to that woman. And if something happened to that woman, I knew that something might be able to happen for me, right? That maybe just somehow, some way, what have I got to lose because I am not scoring too good at the age of 43? I might as well try it. And I blindly went through the steps. They asked me to turn my will and my life over to, a power greater than myself. And then we did the third step prayer. They told me I had to have this psychic change, and was I willing to take some action to make that psychic change happen? And I was a little hesitant because what does that mean? A psychic change? What's going to happen? My head's gonna spin or something. What's a psychic change? I've been to, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I've been to Pentecostal church where they lay hands on people and they fall out and they talk in tongue, and I don't want that. If that's what a psychic change is, I am not having it. Don't touch me, right? I don't know what a psychic change is, and quite frankly, I know I've been living this way for 40 years or 20-some years. I know what this is over here, this unmanageability, this, terrible way of living. I know how to do that. And you want me to step over here and try this psychic change thingy? I'm not sure about that. And they're like, what have you got to lose? So here I go on my knees, I'm holding hands with a bunch of women saying this prayer, I don't even know what I'm saying, and they just tell me to go through with the actions and see what happens. And one of the things from the very start that they told me was that I needed to just set aside everything that I ever thought that I knew about spiritual things and about Alcoholics Anonymous, about my alcoholism, and they taught me a set-aside prayer, and that's where I started. I started with the set-aside prayer first. Go back to a blank page, Adrienne. And dear God, help me set aside everything that I think I know about Alcoholics Anonymous. Help me to set aside everything that I think I know about the 12 steps. Help me to set aside everything that I think I know about getting recovered and getting free, about these people, and everything that I know about you, so that I can have a much, much needed new experience with all of these things. And that was my standby prayer. And they sent me off on a resentment list, which I loved. I hated everybody, and everybody needed to go to jail or, be tortured, and that was like the best thing ever. And we do this 5th step, and we see things from a different angle, and I start to realize that I'm the problem. All these people that have wronged me all of my life, it was always came back to me. I'm the one that needs to change their perspective. I'm the one that needs to change. And the fact remains, the beautiful fact is that if the problem's me, that's a good thing, because I can't change him. You know what I mean? I can't change the people around me, but I can change me for the world. And the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous did that for me. They changed Adrienne. I became this new, host for God, right? I was a hostage to my ego, in a self-imposed prison, right? From resentments and fear and judgment of other people. All of these things, and how self-pity, a victim, all of these things, they defined me. I'm a victim of a violent crime. Like, I wore that like a badge. It was like my shield. Like, if what happened to me happened to you, you'd be doing what I'm doing too, so back off, brother. That's how I roll. Those were my defenses, like the things that had happened to me. And really, victims don't get better. Victims stay sick. And so I was able to, through the love and guidance of a sponsor that had gone through this journey before me, she was able to point out some truths about myself, and how even resentments that appeared to be warranted, right? Justified resentments, they were killing me, and that I needed to be free, and I had to have forgiveness in my heart, and I had to go out and clean up all of the wreckage of my past so that I could be a free woman, so that I didn't live with, worrying about things that I said to people 20 years ago or actions that I took. Like, all of that can be cleaned up in Alcoholics Anonymous, through these beautiful 12 steps. And I did that. It was a beautiful, freeing experience going through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I've had some great, beautiful amends stories. One in particular, my father, just because I mentioned him before, is that, I always wanted to be Daddy's little girl from my parents got separated when I was 3, and I never got to be Daddy's little girl. My fault. I see that now, because I pushed the man away for so long, and I was able to make amends to that man, and it had to be done twice, because he was running the show the first time. But the second time around, making an amends with my father, afterwards, it turns out that he said he should have fought harder for us kids, and that he was sorry, and that it's never too late to be Daddy's little girl. So at the age of 43, I get to be Daddy's little girl, and that was a huge light bulb moment for me. Like, my mom took us across the state line. People go to jail for that today. My dad fought for custody for us for a long time, and I didn't know that. I didn't. My reality is that Dad was a jerk, and that was it. I didn't realize that there was this custody battle going on, and Alcoholics Anonymous allowed me to see that truth. Alcoholics Anonymous set me free from that resentment to help me clean up that relationship, and now we can build this, a new relationship, and I can be Daddy's little girl now. And he loves Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. His little girl is alive and sober and talking about God all the time. Like, he's blown away. It's interesting how the program, you know, like all of the damage that we do with our drinking has these ripple effects, right? So I'm, you know, out of my mind crazy with my drinking, and my husband's furious with me, and he goes to work, and now, so I've done damage to him. He's damaged goods. And then he goes to work, and now he's damaged goods to his coworker and his employer, right? So there's that ripple effect, right? Or maybe he's grumpy to his kids because he's mad at me, right? So the ripple effect of the damage that we cause. You know, time that he could have been having a peaceful life, he was worried about me, stealing time, stealing peace of mind, and it carries over into these ripple effects. And the same thing happens when I get better. When I go through these 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and I get set free and I have this awakened spirit, the ripple effects happen that way too. So my husband becomes healed from the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Because I get to bear witness and I get to change for him. And you know, the book talks about, you know, invite your husband into prayer and meditation, or, you know, but don't force the spiritual life on anybody, right? And 4 years in, the other day, you know, my husband's going through a career change, a possible career change, and it's pretty scary. And I wake up in the morning and I smell my sage. I'm like, who's burning sage? Like, my husband's downstairs in my little sanctuary, burning sage, getting quiet. You know, like the ripple effect. Right? Now the spiritual principles that I've learned, now he's learning, right? He's outside one day on the front walkway and his hands are up and he's like this, and I'm like, oh my God, the neighbors are going to see him. You know, like, and he's talking to God on the front walkway, you know, because he's learned to rely on this power too. You know, my father, you know, suffering from alcoholism from my brother. Right? My father got really sick. We thought he had a stroke because he was obsessed with getting my brother well. He would call me and beg me to help my brother, and I'm like, Dad, it doesn't work that way. You know, and I had this light bulb moment one night. My aunt in California had sent me this huge box of books, and in this box of books was the Al-Anon literature. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just put it aside, and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe my dad could benefit from the Al-Anon literature. And I dropped the Al-Anon literature off at his house one day, and like a couple weeks go by, and I'm talking to my dad, and his whole verbiage had changed. And I'm like, Dad, are you reading them Al-Anon books or what? Like, the man shifted. The man got free, right? From, you know, you can't make a change in the world. One person can make a change in the world. You know, God used that woman, Jen, to demonstrate principles and teach me how to go through these beautiful 12 steps and get changed for the world. And now she made a difference in me, right? And now I'm a different person. And now I go out into the world and I become a light unto others, right? And now I bear witness to this program and how I got free and what I do on a daily basis to stay free. You know, once you get through and you're starting the amends process, my sponsor told me you got to read 84 through 88 twice a day. I told her it was way overkill. Why'd I have to do it twice? Didn't know that the words I was reading actually had instructions on how to live my life every day. And so I started reading this, and I started doing what this book started telling me to do in steps 10 and 11, right? And so I get to clean up things on a daily basis. And now my husband cleans up stuff on a daily basis. And now my father says, what's that fourth column all about again, baby girl? Like, and you know, I get to tell my dad about the fourth column. And, you know, they're not alcoholics. This way of life has benefits for everyone. Our book says it, right? And so the ripple effect. You know, we go out, I can live my life on a daily basis I can clean up the wreckage as I go, but now I'm at a point 4 years in where I can prevent the wreckage from happening. At work, they hated me my first year in sober at work. I was always making amends, and they go, oh, here she comes with that AABS again. You know what I mean? Because I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just need to tell you it was really wrong of me to tell you how to do your job, and I'm really sorry, and please forget, how can I make it right? And they're like, after like a year, they're like, stop, and after a year, I'm like, I gotta stop, and something happened along the way as we practice these principles, right? As we try to apply them into our life, they become second nature. And now I can prevent stuff from happening, and I don't have to clean up so many mistakes because I make less mistakes. I'm not rendered white as snow in this program, but I can tell you what, when you live in the sunlight of the Spirit, once you've had a taste of being free from your ego and from those, the shackles that you're bonded to self with, as soon as you get free, you don't want to go back into the darkness. The light, the sunlight doesn't decide who to shine on, right? The sun comes out and bam, sunlight. I stepped out into the sunlight, right? And every once in a while, just happened this week, I stepped out of the sunlight for just a day, and I felt like a tortured soul for a day, because I forgot I have a toolkit of spiritual principles. I forgot to say the resentment prayer. I forgot to make amends. I was so wrapped up in the bondage of self and my ego and my right way of doing things, and that I neglected to use the tools that I try to tell other people to use. And that's the beautiful thing about sponsorship. It reminds me on a daily basis, the more I throw myself into helping others and take them through this process, it brings me right back to living these principles, right? Because my ego comes back really quick and I don't need it, or I forget. Right? And so the more entrenched I am in helping others and carrying this message and talking about these spiritual principles, it forces me to live them, right? Or reminds me to live them. And when you step out of that sunlight, it's no longer acceptable for me. Like that is not acceptable. I don't want to be out of the sunlight. I want to stay connected to God. I want to go back to my source, right? I was listening to this guy talking about, we all come from God. We're all God. We're all spiritual beings having human experiences, right? And just like, if this is an apple pie and I take a slice of this apple pie and I give it to Ron, and now that slice of apple pie is over there, and you ask that slice of apple pie, what is it? He's still the apple pie. He's just over there, right? I am a part of God. I am God. God is within me, right? And it is my responsibility to bear witness to that and to be like God, right? How can I most reflect His love, right? Love and acceptance and tolerance and all of these things that I can forget like that and be out of that sunlight again. And it's not a good place to be. Good thing is, for me, is I'm surrounded with people that remind me, hey, did you forget to say the resentment prayer? Oh, well, they deserved it, or, that my boss. And they're like, no, we have a book. You should do what it says, And when I do that, when I stay close to God, when I go back to source, when I go back to the Spirit, inhale the Spirit, right? When I can get centered and back to my foundation, which is usually done through meditation and prayer, right? Or tapping into the God in someone else, having a conversation with a guy, being reminded of where I come from. That's when the beautiful things start happening. And it's an amazing journey, the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I believe that I have been healed, right? I believe that I've been healed, and it is my responsibility to show other people how to do the same thing. And we were just at a birthday party. It was my stepmother's 78th birthday. She looks like she's 50, right? Wish I had them jeans. We're at her birthday party, and it's just a few of us standing around, and my niece is there. My niece is 26 years old, and her father's back in rehab again, and she's getting married next Memorial Day. And she was almost brought to tears talking about how she had to write her father off and how the family is torn, because some of them are telling her that she's, not being compassionate and, that she needs to understand that he's an addict. And then I hear my stepmother talking about something else, and well, he's a drug addict, not an alcoholic. There's a difference. Yeah, great, there's a difference. But, the fact remains is that Elise is hurting. And everybody wants to judge and make comments, and let's help Elisa get healed, and I believe I have the ability to help her, and she's not an alcoholic, but I can show her how to get free. I've been given this gift. I've been given this beautiful message of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and been talking a lot about inspiration, right? So pain and suffering motivated me to get sober. I was motivated to get sober in Alcoholics Anonymous through the pain and suffering that I was going through. I get sober, I go through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I get free. I find my purpose to carry this message and help other people. And then everything switched again for me, right? I get free, I find my purpose, I find my freedom. I'm starting to find my inspiration. I am drawn to this program. I am drawn to those. I know deep down inside of me that I need to help people, that I have a gift of helping these people through spiritual principles, through taking people through this work, through helping my niece with a better understanding. What a beautiful gift I get to help my niece, Alcoholics Anonymous is such a beautiful program, and to go from being a girl who was in the fetal position at my mother's house, crying, saying, I don't have any purpose, And people would say, what inspires you? Nothing inspires me. That's where I was at. And so I'm this hopeless wreck of a human being on the floor with no purpose, and I'm dead inside. My spirit is completely dead. I've got nothing to offer the world or anybody. To being this person who is overwhelmed and can be brought to my knees with gratitude and purpose and inspiration. Inhale spirit, right? I can be a light unto others, and it's a beautiful, beautiful gift that I've been given. And it is my obligation never to be used lightly, never to be misused. And, I hope y'all get it. And if anybody has not been through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as they're outlined in that beautiful blue book that had my autographs in it, find somebody that has. I'll be happy to do it for you. There's many people in this room that will too. It's a beautiful program. God is so incredibly forgiving and loving and inspiring and fulfilling. I don't need anything. I like stuff, don't get me wrong, don't get that twisted. I like a lot of stuff. It's my husband. But I don't need anything. I came in here I was born with nothing, no things, nothing, right? And I will leave here with no things, with nothing. And all I need is to be connected to the source, to be connected to spirit, and life is beautiful. And I hope you can all get plugged in and have an incredible journey too, and then help others. Thanks for having me, guys.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out. Let's thank Adrienne one more time, please. Customary that we take some time out of our lives and just take a formal line and thank her for coming out here and being of service to Alcoholics Anonymous. Next week, we have, let's see who's on here. We got a treat for you. Mike M. out of Bel Air, Maryland's coming up. Our sister meeting Thursday, 7:30, Big Book Study at Salem, 186 East Court Street. We had, Dave W. knocked it out of the park, did a presentation on the doctor's opinion last week, and we're going to have somebody in this week. I'm going to talk to a couple guys, so we'll be doing that each week. So if you'd like to get along there, come over and see us. We'll have some fun. We've got a nice way of closing. Thanks for coming out. If you want to help afterwards, we got a bunch of stuff to put away. Thank you.